I'd like to welcome everyone and call today's meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to order. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis peoples and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters. The purpose of today's meeting is to review an application for consent to sever as it relates to lands within the Municipality of Meaford. Let me start by introducing the members of this committee. On my far right, Mr. David Cramp, Mr. Ed Ormsby, Mr. Cam Hall, who's the vice chair, and on my far left, Mr. Peter Tovel, and myself, Terry Williams. The planning staff in attendance today, Denise McCarl, Manager of Planning Services, Michael Kelly, Planner, welcome, this is your first meeting, and Gabe Pucci, who's Development Services Assistant and Secretary Treasurer for this committee. This committee is legally required to make decisions that conform to the Provincial Planning Act, as well as existing county and local official plans. Based on those documents, as well as any additional relevant correspondence, the municipal planning staff have prepared detailed reports and provided this committee with their recommendations. The community is encouraged to share their thoughts about these proposed applications. For those who may be joining via Zoom or are here in person, you will have the opportunity to speak should you wish to do so. I will call upon you at the appropriate time. It is also appropriate for you to ask any questions that you may have as it relates to these applications. Your constructive comments to this committee will help us make informed decisions. The applicant or their representatives will have the opportunity to respond to any comments or questions raised by either the committee or the members of the public. Anyone wishing to receive notice of this decision on any of the applications being heard today may do so by calling 519-538-1060 extension 1120 or through an email request to planning@meaford.ca. Gabe, are there any changes to the agenda?
To you, Mr. Chair, application to consent B01-2025 and B02-2025 have been deferred by request from the applicant and the agent of the applicant. So we will only have one consent application today. Thank you.
Yeah, as such, we will not be discussing this file at any point today. Before we begin the public meeting, though, I would like to ask, first of all, have members of the committee had the opportunity to review the minutes of our last meeting?
Yes.
Are there any changes necessary or comments relative to what it contained?
No.
May I have a motion then to accept the minutes as Cam and David? All in favor? That motion is passed. Now I must ask members of this committee if they have any direct personal or pecuniary interest or anything of a general nature thereof as it relates to today's files.
No.
Seeing none. This is a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to discuss an application for consent under Section 45 of the Planning Act for the lands known as 137-204 Gray Road 12. The requirement to hold this meeting is that there must be at least 14 days notice as prescribed in the Planning Act. Gabe, can you please confirm that the public notice was provided at least 14 days in advance of this meeting and summarize the application as it was presented to us?
Through you, Mr. Chair, notice was given on February 6, 2025, giving more than the required 14 days notice. And the applicant is requesting consent to sever one residential lot from an existing 84-hectare parcel. The purpose of this application is to reestablish a previously existing parcel which became merged on title with the larger parcel at some point in the past. The lot will be 0.2 hectares in size and will have 50.29 meters of frontage on Grey Road 12. The lands would be serviced by an existing private well and septic system and would have access on Grey Road 12, an open and maintained county road. The official plan designation of the lands is urban living area. Thank you.
Michael, are there any additional comments regarding this file?
Yep, so just a few notes. First, I want to note that a minor error was made in the information on the original public circulation. It stated that the new parcel would have 40 meters of frontage along Grey Road 12. This was a typo. It will have 50 meters of frontage along Grey Road 12. Since this doesn't materially affect the application anyway, no actions are required for this. Some further updates since the planning report was published. So after the agenda was released, the large accessory structure on the property suffered a significant structural collapse. As such, we have added a recommendation for a condition beyond those which were initially included in the planning report, which will require that the applicant apply for, obtain, and close a demolition permit issued by the municipal building department to demolish the accessory structure located on the property. And ultimately, planning staff are recommending approval of the application, subject to conditions recommended within the planning report. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have on it.
Have the members of the committee had the opportunity to visit the site and or review the file? And if so, do you have any questions as it relates to this file to the planning staff? Mr. Ormsby.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just wondered, it didn't say anywhere as to when the lot was actually merged back in with the farm. I wondered if we could clarify that. Is there a clarification for that?
So I think perhaps the applicant or their agent can
Okay,
clarify
that'd
that
be
a
great.
bit better.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, question, the existing septic, I get the impression that it wouldn't meet today's criteria for being there. Is that correct?
So at the time the report was submitted, there was some question about where exactly the septic is located. Since then, the applicant has provided a little bit more information, which I believe she will speak to during her part about where the septic is located.
Are there any additional questions for the planning staff?
No.
Would the applicant wish to speak? If so, can you identify yourself and turn on the mic, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Kristen Rennie from Georgian Planning Solutions. I'm the agent acting on behalf of the property owner. I do have a quick little presentation with some pictures. I'll keep it as quick as possible, and then I'm more than happy to answer any questions. So as mentioned, the application for tonight is to reestablish a previously existing parcel that is merged on title with the adjacent larger parcel. Next slide, please. We can skip this. This information's already been done. Again, the proposal is to reestablish the original lot lines of the rural residential lot that is merged on title. So that is the reference plan that's being shown there. And that area is actually already zoned rural residential, not just plain rural. So next slide, please. Just gives you context in terms of the larger parcel and where it's located. The severed parcel has a frontage of 15.29 meters, a depth of 40.23, and is approximately 0.2 hectares in size. Next slide, please. This was the site plan that we submitted. It's a little bit different now. Well, will be in the future. The bottom picture at the bottom on the right is the structure that unfortunately did not take the bearing weight of the snow just this week, actually. On that drawing, we had Ardell come out and confirm where the septic bed was and the holding tank, and it's identified on there with the green boxes. And next slide, please. That's pretty much all I have, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I can just let you know that I do not know the date of the merging of that lot. I was expecting the client to be here today.
Do members of the committee have any questions at this point? Yes,
Excuse me, can we just go back to that other slide where it had the septic, the area bit?
is it possible to zoom in so that we just, so we can see that a little better? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. I assume that the purpose to sever this is such to eventually sell the lot or to use it for another function. I'm curious if you're going through the process to sever, why you didn't actually make it a legal sized lot at 0.8 acres and rather than keep it at the smaller lot size that it is. Simply because if something else is going to be built on that lot, I would be concerned that, you know, eventually you'd have to come back for variances because you'd be too close to the property lines, et cetera. Was there a particular reason why the lot wasn't made larger?
There's a couple of reasons for sure. We already have a reference plan that references that property size. It's zoned for rural residential, so it's wouldn't have to do an additional zoning or minor variance to recognize more land being added to that property. And it was the wish of the property owner to have that, and there's active lands in the area that they farm. So it was to minimize that.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions from the committee?
No.
Is there any member of the public online at this time? No, thank you. Last opportunity, final comments, questions. Then Gabe, can you please provide us with the suggested decision and the conditions?
The decision is that the Committee of Adjustment grant provisional consent upon following conditions. The first condition is that the applicant meets all the requirements of the municipality, financial or otherwise, for the certificate of consent to be issued, that the applicant provides payment of cash in lieu or of parking dedication for several lands, that written confirmation is received from the County of Gray that any required road widening has been completed to the satisfaction of the County of Gray. Written confirmation provided by a qualified professional to identify the exact location of the septic system on the severed parcel to ensure it is fully located within the proposed severance. Recommendation provided by a qualified professional of the options for the potential replacement of the septic system in the future as required to the satisfaction of the municipality. That the severed parcel meets zoning requirements through application by the applicant to the municipality for minor variance or a zoning bylaw amendment as deemed appropriate by planning staff at the time. That the applicant apply for, obtain, and close a demolition permit issued by the Meaford Building Department to demolish the damaged accessory structure located on the property. And last, that the final reference plan be provided to the municipality for review to the satisfaction of the municipality. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any comments from the committee members?
Nope.
Can I ask why we need the condition in here relative to the zoning requirements if it's already been zoned rural residential?
Yep. So the lot is currently zoned rural residential, but all the features on the lot do not necessarily meet the setbacks of that zoning. And since we are creating a new lot, you have to see it as if the lot is brand new. So anything, the creation of that lot would have to meet the setbacks of that property, of that zone. So you can see on right there, it has the required 7.5 meter setback. You can see that it goes right through the house at the bottom and the concrete barn, but the barn won't matter because it'll be torn down. So they will have to meet that as well as a similar setback, which would be at the southern lot. So the church or the house in question would not meet zoning unless they got the minor variance.
But if we, if we are creating a new lot, which is going to require a zoning amendment, then how can we justify that this lot doesn't mean the minimum size of that zoning requirement, 0.8 hectares?
Because it's two different requirements that are required to be met. The zoning, there is no lot limit size for a rural residential lot. The lot limit size, the 0.8, is based in the official plan, and you are allowed to go smaller than that given justification if you decide to. The fact that this was an existing lot that had functioned for 150 years, according to the applicant, or has been functioning for some period of time, to me is justification that it can be a smaller lot via the official plan, but it still has to meet the zoning bylaw setbacks, which are a separate issue, which it doesn't meet. So that is why the minor variance or zoning bylaw applicant amendment would have to be figured out in the future.
And as it relates to the septic system, is that based on potential future use of that lot in terms of demolition and then rebuilding something in its place?
It is the condition, you mean? Is that what that's? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so the idea behind the conditions were, one, when this was originally written, we didn't know exactly where the septic was, so we'd like them to prove it. And two is that, yeah, at some point in the future, if something else were to be built here, we want some sort of certainty that you could service it. At the time, that was before this large concrete barn was going to be demolished, but we would, which may provide room, but we'd want that looked over by the building department to be sure at time after this is conditionally approved.
For a building permit, does it not require that there is adequate septic?
Yep.
Acceptable? So I'm curious why it needs to be in this file related to the severance.
Because we don't want to create lots where the only perhaps barrier to construction is possibly at that stage. If we can put a break in now to make sure we're not creating a lot that can never be severed or can never be serviced, that's a good idea. In case in the future, these people sell it, for example, new people buy it, and they go to replace their septic system and the building department says they can't, that's not a good, you don't want to hit that at that stage. If we can solve it at this stage, we can have a condition that says this lot can't be built unless you can prove a septic system can go there.
But the septic system that you're going to put in, is it not dependent on the size of the building, the number of bathrooms, et cetera, which is down the road and would be faced with when you actually went to get the building permit? I'm simply saying, we're putting in all of these conditions for future use. And I understand why you're going from that route, but I'm curious why we're complicating the severance, because I have a hard time to say we're going to approve a severance to go to a very small lot, but then put in all of these conditions. Kristen, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I just wanted to add one thing through you, Mr. Chair, in relation to the setbacks and the zoning conformity. Even if the lot was bigger, the two items that I would have to do through the minor variance wouldn't change.
I
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah.
But knowing that the intention is that something else is going to go onto that lot long-term,
Potentially.
if the lot was bigger to start with, there would be less requirement for them to come back and look at obtaining variances. So
I will just note that there has been a lot of innovation in septic design and the push within settlement areas that don't have full municipal water are lots that are quite a bit smaller than this that have been approved. So in the last year, maybe not in this municipality, but in other municipalities that I work in.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional? Oh, sorry. Okay. Gabe just pointed out, did you wish to speak on this issue at all, sir? Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions from any of the committee members? Then can I have a motion as it relates to the decision as it was prepared? David, seconder, Peter, all in favor? That motion is carried. Can you outline the next steps, please, Gabe?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The applicant will receive an email with the decision and notice of appeal period. Also, you can take off the signage that show the land, and we're all done. Thank you very much.
Any additional comments, questions from committee members? New business, anything? Then the next meeting is scheduled for March the 26th.
March 26th.
Do we have files that you're aware of at this time?
We haven't actually received any files, Mr. Chair. Yeah,
Okay.
not that I'm aware, like we haven't received.
Not new.
Not new ones, yes.
But there's
There
There's been several
there's been several
deferred, so-
deferrals, yes.
all right. With that, the meeting is now officially closed. Thank you.
Thank you.